Hello, I'm Daniel. I am going to give a talk today from the 37 practices of a bodhisattva. And a bodhisattva is one who is trying to bring more awakening to their life, trying to unleash their potential and live in a more mindful, compassionate way. That is how I define a bodhisattva. So, I'm going to talk about this verse from this text, and it is this 37 practices is like 37 tips for how we can unleash our potential. And I'm doing a series where I do one and then another and then another. So the one I'm going to do today is called Bringing Suffering Onto the Path. Bringing Suffering Onto the Path. And I'm going to read the verse and then I'm going to comment on it. So here it is. Even if someone were to cut off one's head, though one is free from the slightest fault, it is the practice of bodhisattvas to take all wrongdoing upon oneself through the force of compassion. So that is really heavy, right? The one I talked about yesterday was even if somebody steals from you, you shouldn't be mad at them. And this is even if someone is trying to kill you. Even if someone is trying to kill you. I think this is really hard to put into practice. It's hard for us to even think about. I related it yesterday. I related the stealing one to the teaching of Jesus, turn the other cheek when you're attacked. And I think this one relates to it too. It's amazing how, 75% of the United States is Christian. And yet when people hear this from Buddhism, they're like, what? Really? And it's of such a similar message, but it's really about responding with kindness, even when we're harmed, even when we're harmed really aggressively. As bodhisattvas, we want to try to learn how to not get angry when people wrong us. And this is about setting an intention. This is not about like, I'm going to love the person who's killing me, but this is about setting an intention and saying, well, I'm going to try. Anger is the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to not wish people harm. We want to cultivate patience, even in the face of horror, even in the face of the worst possible thing, someone trying to cut off your head. We want to try to cultivate patience in response to that. And yes, it's very hard, and that's why I say it's an intention setting. It is setting a goal that I'm not going to accomplish, right? It's like, I like to think that Buddhism could be described as growing up. And I'm stealing that. My fiance Alicia said it to me today. Buddhism is like growing up. What do I mean by that? I mean, we're learning how to not be overcome with our emotions. We're learning how to not let our thoughts rule us. And we're learning how to see the world as it really is instead of being deluded all the time. So in that way, Buddhism is like growing up. It's a philosophy around growing up. And sure, there's other things going on, but really at its core, it's about showing up for people. It's about being fully present in your experience. It's about seeing things as they are. It's about learning how to deal with problems, even really, really hard problems. Learning how to deal with problems and not falling apart. So that's what we're really talking about here when we say, even if someone were to cut off one's head, though one is free from the slightest fault. So that's even if someone's trying to kill you for no reason, still try to respond with kindness. I don't even know why this verse is called Bringing Suffering Onto the Path. But besides that, like the highest form of suffering is the suffering, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think the highest form of suffering is the suffering when someone's trying to kill you for no reason. And it is so hard to respond with kindness. And we can take that's the extreme, but we can bring that down to earth and think of like simpler examples of someone being kind of an asshole, right? When someone's kind of an asshole and we respond with kindness, we're going to have a better result than if we respond by being an asshole back, right? So I think in that way, I think of this as the most extreme example, but really it's when anybody does something awful to you for no reason. Can you respond with patience and kindness? Can you? It's hard, right? I can't imagine like if somebody stabs me, then I say, oh, well, you're just working out your things. Like, I'm not mad at you, but that's what we're called to try to do. That's what we're setting an intention. Our intention is to show kindness even when it really, really seems inappropriate. To show love and compassion even for those that really seem like they don't deserve it. We want to learn how to cultivate so much patience that when the worst things are being done to us, we don't fall apart, but instead we're strong and we get through it and we come out on the other side. We want to come out on the other side. The Dalai Lama, I'm not a Tibetan Buddhist, but I've read a lot of the work of the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama told a story about how he talked to a monk who had been imprisoned. The Dalai Lama himself, he escaped. He was not imprisoned, but a lot of his people were. And he talked to a monk who was imprisoned, and the monk said, I was afraid every day. I knew they weren't going to kill me, but I was afraid every day. And the Dalai Lama said, what were you afraid of? And the monk said, I was afraid I would lose compassion for my captors. I was afraid I would lose compassion for my captors. That's really powerful, right? And to bring up Jesus one more time, it's like when he said, Father, forgive them, right? It's the same message. It is. Can we have so much kindness that when even horrible things are happening to us, we don't lose sight of it? Can we? I don't know, but that's something to think about. So that's it for today. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Have a good day.